Okay, welcome everyone. I know I sent you, accidentally resent you the same lecture from last week, but this is the lecture we were supposed to do today. So I wanted to quickly take a look at three essays. They were final essays, expository essays that students, submitted to me for grading in a 252 class, similar to this one. And I commented, and I'll comment on yours as well, more thorough than the personal essay, the expository essay, and every essay moving forward. You're getting more commentary so that you can hopefully become more adept at integrating these um, MLA as well as sort of copy errors, eliminating those from the text. So just looking at the reading this essay, the issues I see right away is the date. Look at 26 February, comma 2020. In MLA, according to Modern Language Association, MLA formatting style, we don't include commas within the date. Let's see. Why go right to the title? Why Canada should implement universal child care? And I said, of course, should, as you can see here, uh, it sounds persuasive, and it is persuasive. It doesn't even sound. I was being generous and very charitable by saying it sounds. It is. It's persuasive in nature. So we know the rest of this essay is going to commit itself to pushing forward this agenda of trying to argument on behalf and convince the reader that Canada should have universal child care, which is not the assignment. It's the antithesis of what the assignment should be. It's diametrically opposed uh, to what this assignment should be, right? This expository simply exists to inform, like in a journalistic sort of way, without glossing it over or pushing it through the prism of your own opinion. Okay, so she would have needed to eliminate some of that language. This individual, I know, was a female. I remember, if I recall. As a woman, a mother, there we go. Now we know it's female. A student and an employee. I know all too well the complexity uh, diverged around childcare. Within Canada, women are often faced with a uh, concentrate reappearing issue. So there's some language issues here with a concentrate reappearing issue. Uh, to work or to be a stay-at-home mom. Okay, so I said right here, as you can see, that should be a colon. She's setting up um, something, right, with this information here. Uh, there's a reappearing or reoccurring issue would have been better language, better suited for what she's attempting, more precision, right, with what she's attempting to say. She's setting up the issue, right, the reoccurring or reappearing issue. Then you set it up with a colon. And then to work or to stay at home. That's the conundrum. That's the issue she's attempting to express. So she's setting up the essay. With a personal note that she's going to springboard off of the personal, her being a mom, there being a dilemma, uh, into hopefully an informative mode. The question posed frequently poses a multitude, so I would say you're using the same language in great proximity to itself. The question posed frequently poses a multitude of challenges, so challenges seems almost persuasive, as well as uphill battles, definitely persuasive, for months. Um, so here's a good area to sort of tell you express show versus tell, right? We want to try to do both. You're telling with challenges. You're showing with uphill battle, right? Because that's an image we can see. Both are, should be used, but again, these should be eliminated somehow by neutralizing them into neutral language, right? Because it's too persuasive for expository essay. Um, Women wanting to enter the workforce are plagued, very persuasive, between choosing to work and finding a realistic financial balance towards childcare. So just eliminate the language, take plagued out. The women wanting to enter the workforce are choosing to work, choosing between finding a realistic financial balance towards childcare. There you go. By Canada entering a universal childcare program, it has proven to increase gender equality by giving realistic opportunity for women to continue working or enter the workforce, as well as improve the Canadian economy. This is not a full sentence. That should be a comma. She's listing various reasons why, right? So when you list something, it's separated by a comma. Um, let's read on. Women are frequently tasked with the highest responsibility geared toward childcare and children responsibilities. Uh, with the high prices of childcare, attending daycare is not an opportunity for women and their children to thus utilize these services. The result of this is oppression towards guardians, but more specifically women. So oppression is a strong, persuasive word. You're really peppering around persuasive language within this. You could see you have a dog in the fight. You set that personal tone up here as you're a mother. So there's a reason you want to write this essay. There's a reason why you want to persuade us, and it's very close to home for you. So you're dipping your toes into the river of persuasion too much. This would not have gotten a good grade because of those reasons. So she wants to set up a block quote. If you remember, a block quote is 4 lines or more of prose, so 4 lines or more of essay writing that you want to quote someone, right? It's a direct quote, right? You set it up with a colon, right? So she would have said, grading system dedicated to universal childcare is not only beneficial, so beneficial is persuasive, for women, but the Canadian economy as well. And then she wants to set up the block quote with a colon. This is a block quote. It's not formatted correctly. It needs to be tabbed over, all of it, as you can see now. And then it's going to need a period, a punctuation of some sort. And then it's going to need the in-text citation, right? Who said this? So I don't know who it was. I'm just going to make someone up. Johnson, page 54. All right, so that's a block quote. That's perfectly a great block quote. Obviously, you got to take out the bold part of it. That doesn't count. Now it's a great block quote. Notice block quote too is the punctuation. That's odd. They have that comma or a period there. The punctuation comes before the in-text citation. You can see here the period comes before the Johnson, page 54. Okay. And then she goes on. How could she have changed this? One, I would have said to her, take out the persuasive language. Just eliminate it. You have to. It's too persuasive. It's too loaded. We see that you fall on one side of the argument as opposed to being neutral. Or she could have simply talked about. She could have done she could have defined what childcare was, universal childcare. Just define what it is. Give us background information on countries that have it, and then just define it. Give us a history lesson of where it exists in the world and why. Another way would be to compare and contrast. Let's compare Canada's healthcare or childcare system to that of other countries, right? So compare and contrast is one way to enter the expository essay. Okay, let's look at this essay. So student's name, that's fine. Me, great. Class, perfect. And a date is correct. Now there is an issue here. Just visually, just by the optics of it, you can see that there's too much spacing. It's a small issue, but it's not formatted correctly for MLA. I said there's too much space there, so the spacing seems too much. Right? I'm not going to pull out a ruler and measure it, but I can easily compare it to another essay that I know is formatted correctly and see that the spacing's off. All right, understanding working dogs, great. So it's not advocating on behalf, on at least yet, we don't know. It's not advocating on behalf of working dogs, saying working dogs are the best thing ever. Everybody needs to have one, right? So that's great so far. There are thousands of different breeds of dogs, including crossbreeds and purebreds, but there are some breeds that are able to comprehend the task of herding and working cattle at an effective rate of understanding. So just pay attention, I would say, to these blue lines and these red lines. It's Microsoft Word directly trying to tell you there's a problem. There's an error of some sort. So we have one with the breeds. There's no reason to make it possessive. A cattle dog is a dog whose job is to herd cows and work them in a fashion that the handler has asked. Their job replaces the help of many men. So remember, do not join a complete sentence with a comma. So that's called a comma splice. So he's taken 2 full sentences. So let's just prove this. Their job replaces the help of many men. That's a full sentence. It's a complete sentence. A cattle dog is a dog whose job is to herd cows and work them in a fashion that the handler has asked. That's a full sentence. So you have to do one or two things, right? Throw in a comma and. See if that works. They're in a fashion that the handler has asked, and their job replaces the help of many women. Or throw in a semicolon. That joins 2 complete sentences, right? Or just completely start a new sentence, right? Capital T. A working dog must have a herding instinct, which means. So if you're going to do which, I would just use that, right? Instinct, that means. But if someone's committed to the which, you always use a comma, right? Which means, quote, the innate craving of the dog to move and corral livestock. And we can see here, that is it. She gives us the in-text citation. Wonderful, but it's incorrect. Can anybody tell me why? That's correct. Someone raised their hand and said yes. We don't include punctuation within in-text citations. And here she's using the comma. There's only one instance that we use punctuation within in-text citation, and that's when we use et al. When there's 3 or more authors, and we use, say, if it was Johnson again, we use Johnson space, no punctuation, et, and then space, and then al. Then after the al, use the period. Let's see. No commas again. MLA formatting. I would make this, we're going to route a reader thesis statement, right? Let's have the first paragraph. If you're pushing it, maybe the second small paragraph after this, distill down to the thesis statement for the essay, what the essay is essentially going to inform the reader on. And I said I would make this more apparent that it's a thesis statement, something like, within this essay, we'll explore, right? So she put cattle dogs are driven to work cows, and the different breeds exemplify different variations of how they each work. A border collie, Catahoulou, I don't know what that is, and blue heeler, all are bred to perform in a different way. So maybe she should have done something to the effect of, like I suggested, which would mean within this essay, we'll explore the idea of how cattle dogs are driven to work cows, and the different, as well as we'll look at the different breeds, exemplifying the variations of how they each work. So I just threw out that different because, look, different here, how many more difference we're going to have, right? So I threw it out. It's not required. It's already there once. We don't need to belabor it. Okay, so towards the end of the essay, okay, so the last sentence of the essay, cattle dogs are a true part of the ranching world, and without them, ranches would not be able to run the way they are today. So she's being persuasive, right? So if we sort of look at this as a binary opposition, like binary oppositions are like, the binary opposition of day is night. The binary opposition of white is black, right? So if we look at the binary, cattle dogs are a true part. So if we look at the binary opposition, that's how we know it's persuasive. The true part. So it would be a fictitious part if we didn't have cattle dogs, is what she's essentially saying. So she's trying to persuade us that it's better to be true, is it not? It's better to embrace truth. It's better to have this than not have this. And it's false if you don't. So you can see by the opposite language that is inherent as the opposition of truth is false. Part of the ranching world, and without them, now she's really, ranches would not be able to run the way that, so the business, the daily activities and business of the ranch would be obliterated if you didn't have these dogs, right? So it's persuasive. Just inform us of what these various dogs are, and this essay would have been good, right? If it was properly formatted with the works cited and everything. And this works cited, let's see, looks pretty good. Yeah, notice all the hanging indents. You get the works cited title centered. It's plural, has the S on works. That's great. Each has the hanging indent, which is required. The spacing looks correct. It's in alphabetical order, so it's alphabetized by last name if we have last names. Because, just to reiterate, you might come across an article, a newspaper article, perhaps, a magazine article online, something, a journal article, and you want to utilize a quote, a direct quote from it, or a paraphrase, and you don't have an author. For whatever reason, you can't find the author's name. Well, then you have to use, if you recall, say we didn't have an author for this one, well, then you have to use, can't make up an author, you have to use the title of the article, right? In quotation marks. Very important to use the quotation marks. And capitalize every major word in a title for an article, right? So so dog would be capitalized, breed, bordering, and brilliant would be capitalized. On wouldn't. It's an ancillary word. Doesn't really add anything to the title. Let's see, I know I had one more. There you go. No, that's not it. Sorry. Oh, this one we just looked at. Here we go. Okay, so just doing what we did before, let's look at this header to the left and the header to the right. Looks correct to the left. Your name, my name, class. You spelled out English, great, that's fine. And the date in the day, month, year format. And this individual didn't. This wrote for I have no idea why, but they wrote their last name. They wrote the literal interpretation, last name in brackets right here, instead of inserting. And look, you can see it doesn't advance, it doesn't change, just there's no last name. So that's incorrect MLA, and I would say, that's points deducted, right? If you look at the rubric that we posted on Blackboard, and just specifically drilling down on the idea of MLA, its formatting style, and it puts this person takes away significant points if it's a common thread throughout the essay, if there's a trend. So we have no title, right? I would say you have to have a title. That's part of MLA because it tells us which direction your essay is going to go towards. It's methodical in terms of interpreting for us what the essay is going to be about, the content of it. Early marriage can be referred to as child marriage or child bride. I would say put a comma here if you're using which, if you're dedicated to the which all fall under the same definition. Quote, a union where either spouse is below 18 years of age. Unquote. Human rights to watch. Right. So what is this? Right? It's not an author's last name that we see in text citation. So we have to ask ourselves, well, what is it? Well, it has to be a title then. Title of an article she read. And use that quote. So title of articles, they have to have quotation marks around them as well as the parentheses, right? Typically, the female is married off to an older man. So I would say you're using mixed pronouns here. Female versus man, right? Why not male? Use female or just use woman. Typically, the woman is married off to an older man. There you go. Or typically, the female is married off to an older male. This is a typo. This is just not coming back to your essay enough to read it to catch these typos. She's probably trying to say as opposed to a boy being married off to an older woman. So look, she's really mixing up these nouns and pronouns. Boy, we use man right here, and use female here. You didn't use girl, right? So why are you using boy here? She's fine so far in terms of just informing us. She's not labeling this with any of her opinion that this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. But she needs some revision. Being married off to an older woman. The female is married off to an older man as opposed to a boy. I would take out being. It's called passive language. To be of anything is passive language. As opposed to a boy married off to an older woman. 2002, a study was conducted to find out approximately the rate of child marriage within African communities. So now we see a scope starting to develop, right? Is she talking about Canada? She's talking about Alberta, a certain province? She's talking about Western Canada, Eastern Canada, what? Well, no, she's talking about Africa. So here we go. In this 2002 study was conducted to find out approximately the rate of child marriage within African communities. What the study brought forth was 4 out of 10 girls. So now we're getting back to the mixed pronouns. Ages 15 to 24 years old were married prior to turning 18 years old. Okay. Here's our in-text citation. It looks incorrect to me. It looks like an abbreviation of something. It should be either author's last name or the title of an article in quotation marks. Okay, so we have a problem here too. Punctuation issues. You join 2 complete sentences with a comma. This is a full sentence. African communities. What the study brought forth was, so just put an and. And what the study brought forth was that 4 out of 5, 10 girls, ages 15 to 24 years of old. So how do you time out of being a girl? At what age, right? I see this as problematic, the language. 18 years of age, great. So I said we need a thesis statement telling us what the essay is going to inform us on at the end of the first paragraph. So we need to know what this essay is going to be about. It just gives us a stat, great. But what's it really going to be about? What are you really going to drill down on? And what is this essay going to distill down to in terms of what it's going to inform the reader on, right? Yeah, so this looks like a block quote, but it's not. So there's a major, I just said there's problems with your margins. They're too big. But this is an inch margin, great. This is like an inch and a half. So the primary reasons behind child marriage is gender inequality, poverty, traditions, and insecurity. Great. She's going to talk about all these. I almost felt like she said the reason. That's great. If she would have said the problems behind child care marriage, so that would be persuasive. So she avoided that. She sidestepped that and was able to use the primary reasons. Just reasons. Reasons aren't in any way inflecting some sort of bias, right? So that's good. It's balanced. So I expect the rest of the essay to be about these things. So basically, that's almost her thesis statement. It needs to go up here then. She just shipped it up. So girls, not brides. That's the problem, right? That's probably an article that she read. Whoops. So it needs to be in quotation marks, so we know. So I know there isn't an author. And then it needs to be enclosed in a period. And then take out this period, this goofy period right here, which is serving nothing. There we go. All right, let's move on. According to Healthline.com, so that's an issue. Just I don't know why it's the age at which a female is most able to have a safe pregnancy is after the age of 20 years old, according to Nal M. Noir, the founder and gynecologist obstetrician of the African Women's Health Center states. Quote, great. That's great. That's perfect. Love the quote. And she gave it attribution. Remember, we're talking about attribution, the according to, and then qualify. She not only gave attribution, according to, but she also qualified this individual. How are they an expert in the field of whatever it is you're talking about? And she tells us this individual is a founder of a gynecologist and obstetrician. Okay. All right, let's look at the works cited. It's a mess. Got the works cited part correct. That's great. It's centered. I don't think it's bold. So she created this bibliography, this works cited within actual the Word document. I've never done that before. Students often do that. That's fine. But she's missing a hanging indent for all her entries. We got this individual, the author, great. This is incorrect. Remember, that was before. I didn't understand that. It should just be child marriage is the first thing we see, not UNICEF. UNICEF would probably come right here before the web address. Because we don't have an author. You got to use the title of the article, right? Human Rights Watch, that's incorrect. Should be the title of the article. I've never experienced happiness. And remember, if the title of the article is bigger than 3 words, this one is, it's 4. In the in-text citation within the paragraph, you would shorten it down to the first 3 words. I've never experienced with quotation marks around it, right? It would be the full title here, which he has. That's great. And Watson, Stephanie, looks like it's in alphabetical order. If it was corrected with the title of the article coming first, but with UNICEF, it's out of alphabetical order. That should come way later. Okay, and then girls. All right, should be up here before Noir, Noel. Okay. See if there's anything. Looks like all these need to be fixed, I said, except for the Watson one. That one looks correct. I mean, they all need the hanging indent, so they're all incorrect at the end of the day. All right, so these are common problems with essays. Just individuals not get the MLA correct, but also not actually proofreading your own work. Write the essay, walk away from it. Other individuals are workshopping it for you as you're workshopping other people's, giving 4 comments of randomly assigned essays within Blackboard. That's part of the workshop. That's part of catching the errors, and I would implore you to point these things out. Even though it's a draft, point these things out to your fellow students, these mistakes. And so if you get the MLA correct and reread your own work, edit it, copy edit it, right? Come back to it, write it, set it aside, listen to the commentary from other students, the 4 other students, or how many other students comment on you, and then come back and try to integrate those, and then try to proofread it again, then walk away from it. Then come back and read it again. Have someone else read it maybe, but keep coming back to it with enough space of not coming back to it, right, in between, so you can have fresh eyes with it, so you can make the corrections. Okay. We've postponed the MLA test, as I indicated in the first email. We're going to have it March 3rd. I'll send instructions on that. It's 25 questions long, multiple choice. You have the whole day to do it till midnight of that day. So we have that to look forward to. And if you've been paying attention, this has sort of been a review for MLA. It'll definitely help you within taking that test, okay? So email me as always if you have any questions. Talk to you guys later. Bye.